My next guest takes competition to a whole other level. He has mastered the art of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and worked tirelessly to find his place in the bodybuilding world for over 10 years. He earned his title as four-time Mr. Olympia Classic Physique winner, Chris Bumstead. Thank you so much for being here with me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me on this. I'm excited to do a interview outside of my own little fitness niche. So ready to
I
get
know.
going.
This is different
Yeah.
for me too. I'm more so basketball, but this time I'm wanting to get, a little bit different conversations out there. I know you announced that you're going to be defending your title again this year, so that you're aiming for 5 in a row. How do you stay motivated? What's your why?
That's a great question. And it's definitely something that's evolved over the years. I think when I started, it was just a pure passion for bodybuilding and training and working out. And it's still definitely a huge passion of mine. But it's evolved out of multiple things of combination of the success it's brought into my life, the people it's brought into my life, the experiences and the journey that's brought into my life. And I think bodybuilding has caused me to grow so much as a person and be someone that my friends and family can learn from and grow from and experience competition and ups and downs alongside of me. And that journey that we're able to go through together just made life adventurous, I guess. And life without adventure is super boring. So right now, my meaning or my why in life, honestly, is just like finding adventure, and bodybuilding creates the most growth and the most fun journey for me and my family to go on. So it just excites me every year for something new to come along and chase after a harder goal.
I think people just typically see the finished product, right? When you're getting on stage, but you really walk people through your journey. How important is it to show them a healthy lifestyle of eating clean, being consistent in the gym, setting goals for yourself?
I mean, I think it's super important. And I think what I try and find, what I try and show is a huge balance of it all. And I think there's always a stereotype of if you're at the top of a sport, there's no balance in your life. And to an extent, that's definitely right. There's no balance in like, I'm not going out partying, I'm not spending a typical life, but I can still have balance in like my mind of who I am, of actually enjoying where I'm at. So I'm kind of trying to also document showing the health side of bodybuilding, but also achieving thing at a really high level and being the best in the world at something, while also not being like a miserable piece of shit who doesn't even like their life, you know? So I'm
Yeah.
trying to like show a balance of all that, and it's definitely a fun thing to go along. I try and show as much of my journey as possible on YouTube and social media, and I think there's a lot of other sports that have there's more news on them, more education on it. You see more like highlights and everything, and it builds fans along the season to like really get to know the athletes and be more connected to them. But bodybuilding is a much smaller sport than like the NBA, of course. So
Mhm.
if I'm able to show my journey and my story, and people are able to follow me all year when I only compete once a year, then when I do compete, there's so much more emotional connection to watching me, whether I win or lose, and they're more invested in watching it. And I think it makes the sport a better thing, and it just gets people more involved.
Did it take you a while to learn that balance? I mean, you're competing, you have a relationship, you have multiple businesses. How did you find that balance?
It definitely took a while, and I think it was a force onto me almost in a way. Luckily, by in 2018, I got really sick, and it was a part where I almost had bodybuilding taken away from me because my health was like at risk, and it was a moment of feeling like I was gonna lose everything I'd put it like my life into for so long. So at that moment, I competed another year after that, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't like have fun competing. I won an Olympia. That was my first Olympia one, and it was fun, but it was like more relief I feel than it was like gratification and joy. And
Mhm.
it was just that was one of those things I was like, all right, there's all this pressure, all this shit going on, a lot going on in my life. And if I don't learn to balance it and kind of be present and come back and remember why I'm doing it and just slow down a little bit and like enjoy every moment, then this is gonna fly by me and I'm not even gonna like realize what happened. So it was after that I really started just kind of slowing down, taking the time I need for myself and reminding myself consistently like what's truly most important to me. Like I don't have to win Olympias. I don't have to do this. All I want to do is be better than my past self, work hard as I can, and build relationships and not lose relationships in the process. So it's just been a battle, I guess, but it's fun and I enjoy it every day.
Was it something you came to terms with, or did you have a mentor, a coach, even your girlfriend, fiance now? Um, did you have them kind of steering you in that direction, or was it something where you were like, you know what? I need to just stop feeling sorry for myself. I need to stop, being stuck in this place and just know that I can get back to where I want to be and even better.
It was a little bit of all of the above, I think. It was initially like a slap in my own face, being like, all right, get your shit together.
Mm.
And then it was a combination of the people in my life are very supportive, my family, but also Courtney, my fiance. And she's been through a very similar journey herself. She used to compete and her health took it away from her, and she didn't get a second chance like I did. So she's like, was a great example and a great, I don't know, like shoulder or hand on my shoulder to like really push me through it, the moments where I needed it. And she showed me an example of she got it taken away from her and she wished she had more time, but she's able to make a beautiful life out of it afterwards. But if I have another chance to enjoy it and not take it for granted. So there's a lot of times now where I feel like I'm like on borrowed time, I guess, on like a second chance.
Mhm.
So if I shouldn't even be here realistically, I'm on borrowed time, then I just really make it an importance to myself to enjoy it and just be grateful for the moments that I still have.
I think it's really hard for a lot of people, including myself, when you have an end goal, is just making sure that you are staying present and you're focusing on just the baby steps, right? You're just focusing on the next minute, the next hour, the next day. You're not so focused on, oh my God, I need to get to the Olympia stage. Did you ever know that you were going to be a 4-time champion in that field and be competing for another one?
I don't think I did, no. And I think it helped me, honestly, not knowing because it wasn't like that crazy end goal. It was always just like one little step at a time. Like
Mm.
I wanted to get pro, I wanted to make it to the Olympia, I wanted to do good at the Olympia. Then I was like, maybe I can actually win. And it wasn't until I came second at the Olympia in 2017 where I thought I actually might have a chance of winning. So I was able to just like kind of take one step at a time. And even now that I've won 4 Olympias, people are like, how long are you going to go? When are you going to retire? And my genuine, honest answer is one more. But I don't mean like just one more. I just mean all I can focus on is one more the next year. And after that, if I feel good, I'm healthy, and I'm excited to do another one, I'll do another one. But until the day comes where my body's just like, nope, we're done, then I can't really control that. So I'm just kind of taking it year by year.
I know you had discussed that you had an injury at this last Olympia. Um,
Hmm.
what was that like? I mean, you had a setback before and you're just like, oh shit, like I have to be on stage tomorrow and I feel horrible. How did you mentally get through that? And how did you get the swelling to go down?
So yeah, the injury was I tore my bicep like 3 days before competing. And I didn't know it was torn until like the day before, and it just started to swell. And there honestly really wasn't anything I could do at that point to keep the swelling down. It got to the point where I could literally like kind of just push it up into my arm, so it wasn't in like the joint of my elbow, so it wouldn't look like it was filling that up. So I was just trying to push it, but like there was really no control of it. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was in my mind, but my mind was obviously like bodybuilding is pretty much about chasing perfection that doesn't exist. But if you have like such an obvious flaw, like a swollen, torn bicep, you're like, well, I'm already fucked. I'm already symmetrical. This is everyone's gonna be looking at my arm, like everything's on point right now. But there was so I couldn't get my mind off thinking of like my arm. And it was honestly my coach who kind of came and gave me a slap in the face. And it was also beneficial to the last few years where I'd been focusing on like being present and understanding what's in my control versus what isn't my control.
Mhm.
And it was he looked at me, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? He's like, you're not even smiling up there. Like, enjoy it. Like your work is done. You're the champ. Walk up there like you're the champ. Fuck your arm. What are you gonna do about it right now? And it was just kind of like a slap in the face I needed. Then with backstage, like in the middle of prejudging. So I just kind of took that to heart really seriously. I was like, you're absolutely right. I literally spent the last 4 years understanding that my health is an issue potentially, but I can only control the little things I can control. So just let the universe take over the rest. And that's exactly the same at this moment right now. And I just had to just let go of it. I couldn't do anything about it. So I'm not going to let it ruin my show. And I stepped on stage confidently. And luckily, a lot of people said because I didn't like look nervous or like pay attention to it and I posed like as if it wasn't in pain, that like they didn't even notice it. So it all kind of played out and worked out in the end
Do you ever get nervous going up there?
every time.
Every time.
Pretty much every time. I've never been good in front of crowds, or public speaking is like my nightmare.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to put myself in positions to be better at that. But the first time I ever competed, I remember like shaking on stage because I was so nervous and it was hard to like pose. And now every time my heart just starts racing and I get like nervous, but now I'm able to like enjoy it. And I remember a quote from I think it was like Tim Grover talking about Michael Jordan always got butterflies, and he's like, "Don't get rid of the butterflies, just make them fly in the right direction." And I'm always just, instead of like being like, "Oh, don't be nervous," I'm just like feeling it and being like, "Okay, this is a moment where I've worked so hard, prepared for something I care so much about that I'm nervous, and this isn't like a bad thing, but it's like an exciting moment that I get to like enjoy. So just feel it and like don't let it control you." And it works so far, and usually it just takes a few minutes on stage of posing, get the blood flowing, and then the nerves kind of go away, and I'm able to enjoy it.
I kind of had to train myself that same way because I get nervous as hell before I do interviews. Like every
Yeah,
time, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be a friend, it could be literally anyone. I get so nervous, but I've learned to take that nervousness into excitement. And just when you start like reprogramming your mind and be like, oh, you're excited, you get to do
yeah.
this, it makes it feel so much more comfortable. How do you get into the zone though? Is there like music you like to listen to behind stage? Is there breathing techniques that you do, or is it just simply in your mind just saying, hey, you're going to have fun out there, you deserve this, you work for this? What does that look like?
Usually leading up, it's surrounding myself with really like my close people. I have a small group that's been to every Olympia with me, like
Mm.
Courtney, to my friends Matt and Calvin, my sister, my coach, and everything. So like us coming together, I try not to be like, no, sometimes when someone's like about to do something serious and everyone's like, oh, like, don't say anything, don't do anything. I try and make it really light and allow them to like make jokes and just hang out like as if nothing's going on. And then by the time I get backstage, I just try and put headphones in and really like focus, lock myself in, and just like kind of almost like visualize what I'm gonna do on stage, what poses I'm gonna hit. Usually listen to some old Kanye West or some kind of old school hip hop like early 2000s, because
Love
the best
Kanye.
the best music days. But yeah, one year I did started doing some breath work stuff, and then I started doing it backstage once. And I'm like always, part of my anxiety comes from overthinking what people are thinking about me. So I
Mm.
was backstage one year and I was just like, fuck it. And I started like doing these like deep breaths back there, like Wim Hof style stuff, like intense inhales, exhales, and then holding my breath. And people were like looking at me weird, but I was like, fuck it, who cares? And then I got on stage and I was so like full of like energy that like it actually felt really good. So I've started doing that too now, kind of before going on for my posing routine when I'm out there for a while. But a few variations of things, but mainly just trying to not take it too seriously and just remembering to enjoy it all.
So I kind of want to unpack a little bit what you just said. I know it's like you don't want people judging you, but you're going on stage and people are literally judging you. Like that is the whole point of this industry
Yeah.
that you do. How do you drown out the noise? How do you just not give a fuck?
I mean, I think that's kind of why I feel like why I was put in this position in this world, because I'm someone who's difficult already. So now it's like, all right, let's put all these eyes on you. Let's put you in a sport where you're nothing but judge. Put you on social media where all these people's opinions are going on you, and you like kind of have it coming at you. And I think I've really just taken the like the thought into a matter that the good and the bad, people don't even know who I am. So I don't hear positive comments and let it fill me up. And this is not that I'm grateful for all the support, because I absolutely am. I love all my fans and I'm grateful for the support, but I don't let it like fill my cup up anymore and like fill my ego at all and like take the good, because they don't know who I am, the kind of person I am. They only see what I present. So when I see something negative or judgment online or something like that, it's the same thing. If I'm letting the positive in, I'm going to let the negative in. But if I'm letting none of it in fully, because I know who I am and only the close people know who I am, then it makes it a lot easier to control, and you're a little bit less affected by the outside noise.
So who are you for people who don't know?
Who am I?
Yeah. Like what is it? What do people not know about you that you would want them to know about you?
Do I? That's a great question.
I got
I'm
all
not
the
really
great
sure.
questions. That wasn't even on my list. It just came out of nowhere.
I don't know. I think I do a good job for people who like follow me online and stuff at presenting a honest, true self of who I am. Because I don't. I think a lot of I mentioned before, a lot of like competitive winners have this like hardcore winning mindset, like super intense, like just like hardcore, don't even think about losing, blah, blah, blah. And that's not me at all. I have like fears and I'm afraid of losing. Sometimes I'm afraid what's going to happen to me. I have like ups and downs in my journey. I'm not always very confident, and I don't ever pretend to be. I like present that like I'm human. I go through ups and downs. Sometimes I have anxieties and fears about what I'm doing, even though I've won 4 times in a row. People are like, you're the champ. What are you nervous about? I'm like, it's still scary. Like now there's more expectation on me, and I just kind of present that. And I guess I just like people knowing that I'm as real and anxious as most of them out there. I'm just trying to battle through it on a bit of a bigger stage, but it doesn't make it any more important than anyone else who's doing it.
See, that's what I like about all of your videos. I probably watched like 10 hours or more of your YouTube channel in the past couple of days just to get to know you a little bit more. And I already knew you before, but I think seeing your content and seeing what's important to you really just shines a light on you. For your fans who are always, you know, watching you, how important is it for you for them to be able to see that side and you actually taking them along on this journey? Because so often we see athletes only showing the highlights of their life and they're not showing, you know, their a dark side or things that's going, you know, wrong with them. How important was that for you to showcase that side, and has it actually helped you clear your anxiety and clear your fears?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely helped me clear my anxiety a little bit, because once you start building a false persona, even around the people around you, then it's like you're being something you're not. And that just creates like an expectation on yourself to like act rather than to live. And same thing on social media. If you have thousands of people watching you and you're acting like something you're not, then you have to like put that on, and it creates like a battle in your mind of who you really are. And if you're like almost shaming yourself if you're not willing to just be your true self, because you're like, that my true self isn't good enough, so I need to be something else for people to like view me and accept me. And that kind of creates obviously a lot of internal conflict. And luckily my parents were just people who raised me to just be myself always, so it's hard for me not to be. And it honestly stopped me from being on social media for a while, because I was like, I see all these big personas, these humorous, like outgoing, like super intense people, and I'm like boring and quiet and shy, and like this is like a horrible person to watch on YouTube. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna be myself and see what happens. And it's all played out. And luckily, like you said, not having this like persona like out there that people are expecting, it's allowed me to like diminish some of my anxieties and be like, you know what, when you be yourself, everything works out, because whatever's going to happen that way is the truth of how it's meant to be. And any other way would be like a manipulation of like trying to act out into the world.
So you put yourself through hell during prep almost every day. Hours in the gym lifting, cardio, posing, which is a whole other workout in itself, which sometimes can actually be harder. You're eating a fuck ton of food every single day, which at times can also be one of the hardest parts. What do you love most about that challenge?
I would say it's nice having something so controlled and personal, where you know the amount of effort you put in is what you get out of it. So
Mm.
like it's not like a team sport where like, like you show up but the team doesn't show up or anything like that, or like something that's like, depending on the other team, how good they play, you're not going to score as many points that game. It's like bodybuilding is just purely getting better every single day and learning to reach new levels of effort you can put into your work and consistency. And then when you do that, you see reward. You see your body progress, like visually and physically change from the work you're putting in. So it's a really satisfying thing. Like I talked about earlier, like the adventure and the journey of your life is like the most important thing. And through adventure, we like to see progress and growth. And bodybuilding is one of those things with just such a like like I said, physical, visual, like growth in your body, literally, and also the discipline has built me as like a human being, and kind of the understanding like how hard I can push myself, and every time I push myself, I know I can push myself even harder every single year. Because people like, you hit a certain physique in bodybuilding or certain leanness, people are like, you can't get any better than that, and you're like, fuck that, watch me, I can push harder and harder every year. And everyone experiences that. The second you work hard and you didn't think you could do that, you're like, that wasn't that bad, I could probably do even more of that. So it's very satisfying to just find new levels of which you can put into things.
What are 3 to 5 habits that you do consistently every day? What's that routine look like for you?
I mean, some kind of physical activity. I guess I don't work out every day, but I really try and like push myself to some form of exertion every single day, where either it's a really intense workout or cardio where I push myself through it. And I find just, if ever like I need to clear my mind, or even if I have a headache and I'm physically not feeling good, I get my heart rate going for a while and I push something and I always feel better. Even mentally, if I'm like stressed out about something, it helps me decompress a lot. A little bit less of a stereotypical thing is I do a cold tub very often. And this is another thing where mentally and physically it like just relieves me. Like you get in a cold tub and it's 39 degrees in there, I guess in Fahrenheit. I'm Canadian, so I always mess that up. but it's like 39 degrees and your mind can't even think of anything else. You're just like trying to breathe and not freeze, and you're just like in shock. And then you learn to control your breath, kind of calm down, and it really just like puts you into almost like a meditative state. And you're just like, mind is loose, body is like feeling good. And it also helps me recover a lot to train harder and harder every single day. And then other than that, I guess what means something me and Courtney are just trying to do now is just shut off all our phones and social media at night and just kind of decompress for a minute at the end of the day. And I think that definitely helps a lot, because I'm like, I usually wake up pretty early and either train or go into an office where I'm dealing with social media and businesses. And then I go to the gym. There's always lots of people there to communicate with, and it's like never time to shut off. And we travel a lot, like every weekend. So being able to take a little bit of time every day at the end of the day to decompress and disconnect with the rest of the world definitely gets your head in a good place to go to bed and get ready for the next day.
That's why she doesn't answer my calls past like 6 o'clock or answer my text messages. I'll
She's
have like
just
a
after
whole
answering
novel.
sometimes.
She's like, get back to you in 48 hours.
Yeah.
What would you say is your recipe for success? How do you define it?
How do I find success?
Uh-huh.
That's a good question. I would say you would have used to define success as just like winning the Olympia. But I think now I've, again, talking of a different mindset I have, I think, than a lot of winners. I think I came to the terms that I would be okay with losing. And people are like, how can you say that as like a champion? Winning's all that matters, like blah, blah, blah. But I found that if you're afraid of losing, you're kind of in a state of reaction where you're fearing what's going to come. And you're like, there's a big difference mentally in thinking I don't want to lose versus I want to win. And I think thinking I want to win, but if I'm okay losing, then you're not like in that state of reaction. It like gives you permission to like put full effort in. And if you fail, no matter what, you put all your effort into it. So success to me, I would say, is knowing that you've allowed yourself, without fear of failure, or with a little bit of fear of failure, but not control of that fear of failure. You put in everything you can into something. You put yourself in a vulnerable state to be like hurt if you lose, but knowing that you put it all in is more important than whether or not you get a trophy or medal around your neck. More important, I say this thing in champion mentality is all about no quit. It's not about win or lose. It's about if you put in everything you have and you didn't quit in the end.
No, it's interesting you say that, because when I interviewed Damian Lillard and asked him a similar question, in a sense of like his shooting ability, and asking like, when were you able to just be so clutch like that and just know that the shots were going in and not worry about it, is that he literally said, I'm okay with whatever the result is, losing or winning. And I think that's very powerful in anyone who has a championship mindset like that, who plays at such a high level, or does his sport at such a high level, is having that. When did you come to that realization where you're just like, you know what, whatever the result or outcome is, I'm okay with it?
I think it was slowly built over years, but started at when I had mentioned earlier, when I won my first Olympia and I barely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so there's some kind of formula right now where I do win, I do succeed and win best in the world, and I'm still not even that happy. So like, how can I be sure of achieving that happiness? Because obviously if I can win and not be happy, I can lose and be happy. There's got to be some way that I can operate and like live through this journey, and on the other end, win or lose, I'm going to be proud of myself. I might not be happy I lost, but I'll be proud of the work I put in. So I think it was a combination of after that, and then just also feeling like pressure on the outside when you like are the best in the world, and there's always expectation of repeat winners in bodybuilding. So it's like everyone's just on you, and if you win, it's like, okay, yeah, he should have won, but if you lose, you're like, oh, he sucks now. So it's like less reward, it's high risk, less reward. But I think just a combination of all that, and over the years, I didn't want to let that pressure like ruin my joy of the sport. I wanted to be able to, like I said, step in and enjoy it. So I just kept kind of meditating on it, I guess, in a way, not literally like in the backyard Buddha meditating, but just processing it, journaling on it, and kind of finding a thought process through this journey that I could get on where I would just be less pressure on myself to perform and more excitement to perform.
So do you journal as well? Is that like another element that you've added into your practice, I guess, of,
I do, yeah. Definitely not enough. And I was never finding the time to. So I actually started doing the middle of the day now at work, at lunch. When I eat, I'll just kind of throw some stuff down. And I usually like listen to podcasts or see quotes online or something. And if they hit me, I'll write it down on my phone. And then at another point, I'll just like, in my mind, I do it as if I'm writing a caption for Instagram, because
Mhm.
I'm just thinking, all right, how would I concisely put this into a way where a lot of people could understand it? And the way my brain thinks and analyzing that, almost like if you're creating an essay and the way you have to think about something, it
Mhm.
allows me to like think deeper into whatever the thought or quote is. And then it builds like a deep understanding of myself of if I want to apply that to my life or not.
Do you like writing?
I kind of do sometimes, yeah. I liked it when I was young and I never did for like 10 years, but there are times where I do like thinking through a thought and like adding more details and like trying to formulate it in a way that like makes very clear sense.
The reason I ask is because the main YouTube video that you have up on your page, you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, the little motivation thing.
Did you write that?
Yeah.
That was really amazing. I was actually wondering, did he write that? Did someone else write that for him? I think that there's something there. If you were ever thinking of pursuing, I'm serious, like some sort of writing a book, or
Yeah.
I really think that you should tap into that a little bit more.
I've honestly had the same thought, and that was one of the things that sparked it because that was an example of like I had notes and journal stuff of like the caption concept I talked about, but I never put it out there. And that was one where I kind of combined a few of them into that little like I don't even know what you would call that monologue or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was something I enjoyed too. So it's a thought I've had that maybe one day I'll put all these thoughts I have over the years into a book or something.
I really think you should. Do you also write down all your goals, like short term, long term, and how to execute those? Or is that something that you just kind of keep in your mind and you know what you want to do next?
That was I really just keep in my mind, I would say.
Okay.
Probably a good idea to write those down, but I'm always just thinking of like my mindset and mentality over things, and
Mhm.
then I know what my goals are.
I know that you don't have a time frame on when you are going to be done with bodybuilding or when your last competition will be. What do you want to do after?
It's a great question. All these tough questions. Depending on when it is, and I think it will be in a few years when I retire. I've built a pretty deep passion in the past few years for like business and
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, and I have a great team of people helping and guiding me and like learning me things and great business partners. And it's something I'm grateful to have in bodybuilding where we compete once a year. So I'm able to put time and effort into this while I'm still actually like in the circuit of competing rather than once I've retired because everyone knows when you retire, it's always a little bit more difficult to like input on business and stuff. So it's definitely been a passion of mine that I want to continue to succeed and put even more time into when bodybuilding is not taking time from my life. But I think my ultimate long-term goal is literally just being a good dad. Like I'm very grateful that I've lived such a fun, exciting, successful life now because like I'm already like, all right, like what's could fulfill me the most in this world? And I feel like raising like a good child in this world, especially in our fucked up world right now,
No.
knowing that I could contribute someone who's like able to hopefully contribute and build like a good son, show him love the way my parents did and stuff. It's something I think will bring a lot of fulfillment to my life and I'm very excited for it.
So is that something you and Courtney have been talking about? I'm so excited.
We've
We're
discussed it,
getting
of course.
excited. I'm like, make it happen.
We've definitely talked about it, of course, but I don't. It's not going to happen in the next near future. But if we're lucky enough for it to happen, then we'll do our best when it happens.
Well, I can't wait to be the godmother. Take that responsibility on to its fullest.
Thank
Um,
you. Ashley.
just a couple more questions for you. I did want to ask you because we were talking about goals and talking about the next steps, and also facing your fears. I know you said you hosted a seminar in Dallas and you hate speaking in front of people. I know it terrifies you. How did you overcome it? Is it something you want to continue to do? Because I know you said that you enjoy challenging yourself. So are you going to start hosting more? Maybe are you going to take on any type of coaching or helping, the next generation of kids who want to compete in the Olympia?
Yeah, I mean, it's also a side note. It's funny you called me out for saying how I hate public speaking because someone in my comments called me out for that. They're like, you always talk about mind shift. So like a little tip for you: don't step on stage saying I hate public speaking. Say this is a challenge for me and I'm excited to overcome it. And I'm like, fuck, good point. Try
Yeah.
not to use that vocabulary. But yes, it's something that's the reason we even started that seminar is it's kind of like a tour, but we're just slowly releasing dates. And the whole reason we're even doing that was my idea because I wanted to overcome my fear of public speaking. And it's something I wanted to get better at. I was always a very quiet kid. So I was naturally just like withholding myself from speaking, and that becomes a habit over time. And I wanted to learn how to like slow down, process my thoughts, and present them clearly to a crowd, and like get over that like kind of fear and anxiety. So that whole tour is just an example of me trying to put myself in an uncomfortable position where I'm gonna force myself to grow. And then even now, and that's a little bit safer because everyone comes knows who I am. But then a friend of ours is running a health summit at the end of Miami, and he asked me and Courtney if we'd like speak at it, and I was like, I don't do that stuff. And I was like, then my immediate was like, no, I'm good. Like if you want to do a Q&A or something, like I'm good with that, but like don't let me talk by myself up there. And I was like, that reaction is just proof of my fear is still there. So I'm like, fuck that. I went back. I'm like, nope, I'll do it. Throw me in. I'll talk for 20 minutes or do some kind of speech up there. And that's in like 2 weeks, and I still have no idea what I'm going to say. But as long as I keep putting myself in these positions, even last night we had a huge work party and there was like 150 people there, and I chose to like create a special award for my partner because he's always the one giving them out. And then I gave like a little talk in front of everybody to present that to him. And I was anxious as hell getting up there, but I'm like, all right, this is the moment. I feel this anxiety, but this is growth. This is the moment where I'm going through something uncomfortable, and eventually it's going to feel more comfortable, and that's going to be growth. So like, take this and run with it. So I just keep kind of throwing myself in there when I can.
So I think that's going to be on top of your businesses. The next step on your journey is I think I can see you speaking at seminars or speaking at different events, or even speaking in front of different sports teams. I know that there's a field for that where people go and they speak, and it's motivational or it's sharing your story. And I think that since you were so shy and bottled up as a kid, where you would write down all your thoughts, now it's finally like, I need to express myself. I need to be more open.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that would be something really cool for the future. And it'll just be, like I said, that bodybuilding, you see that like growth from it. It would be really cool to step on stage one day and forget to be anxious and be like, holy fuck, like look how far I've come, like not even realize.
How important is it for you to have a supportive partner and someone who understands your lifestyle?
Extremely. It's hard to even put that into understanding.
Mhm.
I think having a partner just to help you succeed is so important, and having a partner who like understands you so important for the relationship as well. I'm so lucky that, like I told you, she had, and that she had already been through so much of the same process as me, so she's actually able to understand on a certain level what it's like. And I think there's lots of times where I feel an extreme amount of pressure from like the outside world and expectations on myself, and however where I go, there's an expectation of me. And then having Courtney always there, who's like my grounded person who doesn't see me for any of that, just sees me for me. And I know win or lose, followers or not, whatever, she's gonna love me the same because she loved my character, not any of my external stuff. It really just like, again, and it's something else that gives you permission to fail, because you always can fall back on what's important of a loving relationship, no matter what else is going on in my life. So I think it's definitely been something that has excelled me a lot and allowed me to maintain. I'm sure in sports, one of the number one things that's hard to do is maintain year after year, winning championship. Once you've won once, it's one thing, but winning 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times in a row is like a whole other game. It all becomes a mental battle at that point. You have the physical, and now it's mentally keeping yourself in the right place to do it. And having someone like Courtney in my back has helped me stay mentally sane, like 1,000%. And this year was one of the biggest years where after I won the Olympia, I was like, all I could think of was like somehow finding some way to show my gratitude and appreciation for the people in my life who would help me get me there. And that was like the thing I was most grateful for. It wasn't even the win, it was just like the people that I brought on my journey with me, who enjoyed it with me and were supporting me so much, who just like filled me with so much love and gratitude, that it was like an amazing feeling and something I'm more grateful for every day.
Yeah, Courtney is awesome. She's been there for me since the day I met her. And she knows how to make really gross food taste amazing. Like, she knows how to make all the like clean stuff like she's very, very gifted in that.
Yeah.
And she's just, it has an incredible heart, and she's constantly working on herself, which is, how our relationship has been able to evolve as well. You guys are from, super competitive fields. Do you guys ever compete with each other on anything?
We're honestly not that competitive together, I don't think.
No.
We definitely butt heads, and we both like to be right all the time, but as much as probably any couple. but I don't think we really are that competitive about it. No, we're into very different things right now. We kind of let each other take the roles in what we're chasing after. But I like to kind of give her shit sometime in the gym and be like, "Oh, you're on your phone. You're not working hard today," and she just gets pissed and then goes and tries to push herself harder and in like a positive way. But
Yeah.
we're not too competitive, like into like one-on-one things or anything like that. Honestly, no.
Who would you say is usually more right?
I would like to think myself, but somehow it ends up always being her.
The woman's always right.
Yes,
Just
that
so you know.
sadly.
Um, a lot of people I feel like forget that Courtney also competed at the Olympia and she won. Part of being a bodybuilder is posting your body and showing it off. And obviously she has different sponsorships and companies that she works for. Why do you still feel like it's socially acceptable for a guy to post his body, but then when she does it's a lot of hate?
I don't know. I'm always just telling her like, if people talk shit about you just because they're miserable with their own lives, like feel more pity for them than anger at them for trying to bring you down. But I don't know what the difference is. I think a lot of guys are just naturally a little bit less judgmental, and male insecurity comes a little bit less on bringing others down, and comes more on like kind of internalizing trying to fix a problem. I think sometimes.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not really a psychologist, but I think we all kind of know in nature women can be a little bit more like against each other, whereas like men will like get mad at each other, yell at each other, and you're over it, and then you're bros for life, and you like defend them. There's more of like a brotherhood behind it, I guess, but it's hard to say. There's also so much like societal like impositions on women more so than men to look a certain way and be a certain way, to be sexy but to be modest, and if you do this and you're that, and then a lot more judgment that's put on them into the world. So there's a lot more pressure in my opinion on social media, but it's hard to say. And I'm grateful to have a Beyonce as strong as Courtney, who's able to like kind of take it. She's
Mhm.
human. She'll feel something if like for some reason a post goes off and people are rude, but she's always able to kind of come back into understanding. She knows who she is, and what they say can't kind of, like I said, fill her cup up or pour it out. So it doesn't really matter what they say.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you've been able to learn from her? Or maybe a couple things that have, I know you mentioned it, she keeps you grounded, but what are some things, specifically that you've been able to take with you?
I think learning to accept and like bring out emotion more. I was always a very like shut down, like very neutral, like less emotional person. That's still who I am, but I almost used to like shame anger or sadness and not like want to feel it. Where she's always like more like emotional and it kind of comes out and she's like, it's just I'm a human, kind of move on. It's part of the human experience. And I was like, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be sad. And
Mhm.
she kind of helped me understand that it's like I said, the human experience, and just to accept what emotions come, do your best with them when they come up, and not really beat yourself up for it, because at the end of the day we all feel them and we're all human.
When you were able to start expressing yourself, did you feel like a sense of liberation in a sense? Because I feel like a lot of men, I'm not gonna say all men, but a lot of men, they're told, oh, you need to be tough and you can't, use your words. Like you can't, express your sadness or you're upset about something. You just have to toughen up because you're a man. Has it,
Yeah,
helped you grow in a way?
I think it definitely has, and it's still something that like as a man I definitely still struggle with. There's still times where like I don't really know I'm feeling something, she'll know more than me, she'll pull it out of me, and once she does I'm like fuck, like allowing myself to be vulnerable just made me like completely relaxed, and I didn't even know how like stressed I was to begin with. And I remember there was one conversation we were having, and it's not always like pressure of men have to be, but it's almost like an expectation that they already are, that kind of makes men feel like they have to. And we were talking, and she wasn't meaning in a rude way or anything, but she was saying, sometimes I wish I was, we were in a deep discussion. She's like, sometimes I wish I was in your head. It seems so easy. You're always at peace. It's so much easier being a man. And I was like, it just hit me for some reason. I was like, fuck, like it was like I started to build that expectation and pressure on myself. Like it's easy for a man, right? I have to be. And then I was like, wait, that's not how it feels. We just suppress it more to make it seem like it is a lot, but
Yeah.
it's not actually. And then I told her that what I was feeling, and she's like, fuck, you're so right. Like I didn't mean it in a way that you have to be like that. It's just like you seem like you act more level headed, and I'm like envious of that in a way. And I'm like, no, I get it, but definitely men are equally as emotional, just on different levels. We just suppress it more and hold it in a lot more. But kind of having that understanding, definitely, and letting it come out and having her hear that, that brought us closer together. It relieves a lot of stress on me, and kind of, like you said, it kind of allowed you to drop your shoulders a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't figured out men's brains yet, but I think it's important to know we all do experience the same things. We all experience self-doubt, we all experience shame, we all experience, moments of frustration or feeling down. How do you go about like breaking through that? So like when you do have those moments of self-doubt and whatnot, do you usually talk to Courtney about it? Do you talk to a coach? Do you just, get up and just start moving and not worry about it? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, there's definitely various things. Communicating it definitely helps. And it's been a slow process of even being able to identify it in the first place. But
Mhm.
when you shut something down for so long and you numb it, you don't even notice it's there anymore. So being able to like consciously be aware that it's there, and when it comes up to like actually feel it and like accept it and process what emotions and feelings are going on in your body. And then once you're a little bit more used to feeling it because you haven't been numbing it for a while, that's when you're able to kind of like act out of it a little bit more. Okay, I'm used to feeling it now. I know it's there. How do I want to act when I'm feeling this way? Do I want to suppress it? Is it something that's seriously stressing me out and something that like I need to like work on? Is it something external that I need to physically go out and do to fix it? Is it something I just need to vocalize and communicate with someone who it's about, like Courtney? And just being able to kind of process what kind of different feelings you're having and learning how to act accordingly, and learning through failure. You do something, you feel worse, don't do that. You do something and you're relieved. It's like, okay, like remember that one. I was feeling stressed, thinking Courtney might X, Y, and Z, and then I brought it up to her and she confirmed or denied or whatever, fixed whatever I was overthinking, and we were able to communicate it. Now I forgot about it and I feel completely at ease. Next time you feel something, talk about it. So it's just kind of like slowly learning the process of how to deal with it.
I think there has been a lot of things that I'm still trying to learn, and I always go to Courtney too because she keeps me just in the right headspace. She's
Mhm.
that friend that I know that I could tell her literally anything, and she doesn't judge, which is super important. Is not judging and just being able to
Yeah.
be able to talk to someone, but also just being able to understand like, hey, this is gonna pass. You're feeling this now, it's gonna pass. But anxiety is something that I don't think people talk about enough. But I literally get it every day and I don't know how to control it. Like sometimes I just wake up and I'm like, I have anxiety. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Why do I feel this way? Did you ever get like moments like that where you feel just like you don't know where it's coming from and you don't know like how to manage it?
Yeah, there's more so now than ever when I have a lot more on my plate now, whether it's like it was moving to a new country, getting a visa, plus business, plus Olympias, plus sponsorships and traveling and all this shit. Some days I would just wake up and be like, fuck, what do I like? Just like feel anxious about everything that's going on. And those were times where I would probably not, like I mentioned, me and Courtney's trying to slow down and decompress more now. The less I have those times to decompress and slow down and do nothing, the more my anxiety starts to build because I'm not taking any time to process anything. I'm just like running from one thing to the next.
Mhm.
It definitely stresses me out. So just trying to kind of give myself a little bit of break sometimes and process it. And if there's one thing I'm constantly stressing about, it's probably because I need to deal with it or do something about it. So take action on it rather than just like trying to suppress that emotion and going on with something else.
It's usually the one thing that you don't want to do is what you really have to do.
Yeah.
Is it hard being away from your family? I know you mentioned like, leaving the country and being here. Is it hard to be away from them?
It definitely is. Yeah, they always lived a bit away from me, but I was able to see them like once every couple of months at the very least. Now only getting to see them once or twice a year, definitely it's complicated. But I know it's a part of my life where I have to do this, so I'm not going to miss out on it. And I think I'm building an opportunity where hopefully I can like move them down to the US or Florida and be with me 6 months a year or something. So I'm hoping it's only temporary, and it also isn't always so bad because when I do spend time with my family now, it's more meaningful because I know like, okay, I only have once or twice a year. So when you're with them, like actually be present, be there, make it meaningful, make it mean something because you might not see them for another year or 6 months. So it kind of makes you appreciate time a little bit more, which isn't a bad thing.
And then I just have one more question for you. I just like to get to ask this question to everyone that I talk to is just what kind of impact do you want to leave on the world? And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Um, an impact recently I've been thinking of wanting in terms of like the greatness I want to leave on my sport at least is like I said, breaking through that barrier of that like intense ego, like intense male, almost no emotion, no feeling, win at all cost person. I kind of want to like break through that and allow those that don't have that kind of intense confidence and a little bit of fear and anxiety, like myself, and doubt sometimes. I want to give them permission to feel that and still succeed and continue to work hard and chase after what they do. So I think what my hope, my greatness is when I leave the sport is inspiring the next generation to like chase after their goals in an authentic way rather than chasing after like some external success that social media is driving them to like have a nice car or success so they can post about it, but so that it like fulfills who they are and makes them happy, because that's what I'm chasing and that's what I'm really trying to share. So if I'm able to put that onto anyone, then something I'll be very grateful for. And where do I see myself in 5 years? Hopefully retired from bodybuilding. My
Mm.
body will need a break by then, and hope start, like I said, starting my family with Courtney and having a little bit more free time and less on my plate, so I'm able to enjoy that and be a present father and husband that I want to be.
I love that. I know you're going to achieve everything that you set your mind to. And again, I appreciate you being here with me and taking the time out of your day to do this interview. So thank you so much. And I will be cheering front row and center on all the success that you have.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. Have a good one.